the student support and advocacy for everyone. We also oversee the food pantry, our emergency grants, tuition fee appeals, the student conduct process, and our student association, which is really our student government for campus. And then we really like to say, if your student or you don't know where to go, don't know who to ask, please come to our office and we'll point you in the right direction or find that answer for you. A really great resource that we always ask our students and families to review before they come to campus is our student handbook. Again, that has a lot of different resources for both on and off campus that we think will be really helpful for your student as they come to campus, or again, even when they're here, that's a great thing to kind of start if they have some questions. You can move forward. Yeah, thank you. So student support and advocacy. So we do know that during your time here, our students might face some challenges that might impact their success. And so again, we are really a place that you can call or come to, stop in to get some support to help navigate the different processes that are on campus. Like I said, we do have our tuition and fee appeals. So if for some reason your student needs to take a break from campus for a semester, we are a place that you can appeal that tuition or fees that are on their account. Or again, if you even have questions about the different fees that are on your student's account, you can always call our office. We do have 2 campus resources. Can you just push it back, Melissa? We do have 2 campus resource teams, our behavioral intervention team, which is really more of our threat assessment team. So if there is a threat to campus or to someone, an individual person, that team looks at that threat, mitigates that threat, and then gives the support to anyone that may have been impacted by that potential threat. And then we have our student support team. And I think that's a really great resource to point out to you as a family. So if you're concerned about your student in any sort of way, this is, my student has called me and said, I'm really kind of struggling being on campus right now with homesickness or anxiety or things like that. This report, this team is going to look at that and provide intentional interventions for your student. And so if that's something that you want to report, you want to let us know something anonymously or for information, we have our report it form. And I'll put that in the chat when I'm done chatting here today, but that report it form, even if you just Google search UWM report it, it'll pull up and then you can submit that report. The other part that we do oversee is our student conduct process. And so that is if a student has a behavioral issue or an academic related integrity issue that we need to chat about them with. So we oversee our non-academic, which is chapter 17 and 18, and our academic, which is chapter 14. And so we do expect that all of our students are looking at those procedures, understand those procedures, and support a community that really supports the safety and inclusiveness of all of our members. And so those, if we have students who are in conflict with that, that's kind of where we see them through the student conduct process. It is important to note that these policies do apply both on and off campus. So regardless of where your student is, they may come through our conduct process because of their enrollment here on campus. Our sanctions in general are educational. However, we do have some, depending on the nature of the situation, that could result in a suspension or expulsion. What is important to note here is that suspension or expulsion is not just from UWM, it's from the entire system, so any UW school. Again, if your student is reporting anything to you, they've seen something or were a victim of something, again, that report it form is going to be a place where they can report those policy violations to our office, or again, they can call us or stop in. Campus guidelines. So we do know, as we keep saying over the last couple years, this last year, that campus looks different than we expect. So when we attend in person, we're still working through all of our policies and guidelines as it relates to COVID. And so all of that information will be distributed to your students through their UWM email account. We do also have a return to campus website that is available with lots of different FAQs. So truly, as we kind of go through the summer and get closer to classes starting again, those policies or guidelines may be changing or altering. So really watching the student email is going to be really important to understand what is expected of students as we come back in the fall. So privacy, one thing that we really want to point out is there is a law called FERPA, which is our Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, and it's designed to protect the privacy and records of our students. So In university setting, the ownership of their student records is really with the student. And so their student record includes a lot of different things like their grades, different even tuition, right? All of that part is part of their student record, their disciplinary record with our office. And so if you are calling any of the offices on campus looking for information about your student that's really specific and not just a general question, we're going to be asking if a release is on file. And if it is not on file, there's probably limited information that we can give about your student specific to you. So we really encourage you to start having that conversation now about what information that you want to have available to you and what information the student can keep private and tell you as it comes about. If you want that access, there's a release form in their PAWS account that they need to do. And that information, again, you can Google that, or if they're having questions, they can come to our office, but it's on the student success page. There is you can download a PDF that gives directions on how to give that consent. But again, we can't give information out about specific things dealing with your student without that release. So again, it's really important to start having that conversation now about what you want information about and what your student can kind of keep to themselves. Sex and gender-based violence, we do have our Title IX coordinator here today, and she will speak at the end of this, so I'll let her kind of address a little bit more of this topic, but really federal law requires you to be able to address any sexual gender-based harassment or violence that occurs. So we do have online training that will be sent to the students in August. So again, we are encouraging your students or you to have a conversation with your student about that training to make sure that it's being reviewed and done. If they don't complete it by the date listed in their emails, we do put a hold on their account. And so the quicker they can get that done and go through that information and get that, we do believe that that's really important information for them to have as it relates to education and just reporting options for them. So the quicker and sooner they can do it, then they won't have a hold on their account. If something does happen, again, we work really closely with our Title IX coordinator who is here today. And so I'll give her space to kind of have a larger conversation about that. So now I'm going to turn it over to Officer Rafferty, who's going to talk from the police department.
Hey, thanks, Abby. I did see there was a question in the chat. I don't know if you wanted to address that before I begin regarding the student support group.
I don't know that answer, but I will go look for it right now and see if I can provide one.
Okay, thanks, Abby.
Yeah.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Officer Rafferty, University Police Department. I am the community policing officer for the department. I've been here many, many years, and I enjoy doing all the orientations. So I make sure that when I talk to the students as well as the parents, that my message is consistent as we talk about safety at the university. The first slide, you'll see our actual physical address. We're located right on campus, which is really convenient for us to respond to emergency calls. The address is 3410 North Maryland Avenue. We always encourage the student to make sure that you're providing or putting in your non-emergency telephone number into your cell phone prior to coming to campus. So that way you'll have that information already in your phone should you need us for anything. So today I'm just going to give you a quick overview of who we are, what we do, and some of the services we provide. More importantly, things that are going to help keep your students safe while they're here. And so the University Police Department is a full-fledged law enforcement agency. We operate 24/7, 365 a year, just like any other law enforcement agency. Currently, we have 27 law enforcement officers for the university. We have security staff. We also have 3 full-time dispatchers. We have IT and administrative support staff that help us with our standard operating procedures on a daily basis. So when you visit the campus or you're around the university, you'll actually see us on different patrols. You'll see us in our squad cars. We have a bicycle patrol unit. We also have a UTV, and we also are out on foot in all of our academic buildings as around the surrounding communities. Again, our physical address is 3410 North Maryland Avenue. So we're located right in Sandberg Hall at the base of the West Tower. Our contact information, again, our emergency telephone number and emergency telephone numbers. Please have the student program those numbers into their cell phone so that they have that information prior to coming to campus. There's our webpage address, and we also have social media, our Facebook and Twitter. Please like us on Facebook. And so who we are, what do? So we answer calls for services. We respond to all emergency calls as first responders. We coordinate and participate in community events. So I'm going to ask your students, make sure that they mark their calendars for September 20th, which is going to be our Campus Safety Week. And then as law enforcement officers, we enforce all state laws as well as UWS Chapter 18s. which is guidance on university lands. So if there's a violation under UWM or on university lands, that's a citable offense under Chapter 18. We also collaborate with Dean of Students, our Norris Health Centers, and our housing staff, so that everybody's on the same page to making sure that your student is safe and successful while they're here. Some of the services that we do provide provide vehicle assist in ways of lockout and jumpstart. So if the battery dies in the vehicle, we have jumpstart kits in all of our vehicles. We can come jump off the battery, or the person locks their key in their vehicle. We have tools to retrieve those keys. We are the central location, campus lost and found. So if your student loses an item, they can check with our police department to see if anything's been turned in, as we are the central location for anything that's lost. Some of the free training that we do provide during the course of the semester, we do have free self-defense classes. We do active shooter, active sailor training, and we also do drug and alcohol awareness training. You'll see us actually preview a lot of those different type of trainings during our campus safety week that your students can participate in. And we do provide personal safety escorts. So if the student's feeling uncertain or wants a personal safety escort from point A to point B, they actually can contact the University Police Department at our non-emergency number. We can provide that service to them. And then we do educational programs related to safety. And so most importantly, I know most of the parents are, okay, so what are you going to do to keep my son or daughter safe while they're here? And so safety is on our number one priority for all of our campus community members. And so we do have some things that are actually in place that are going to help keep your students safe, starting with our emergency notification system. And so in the event of a life-threatening situation, the student will actually receive a text message and an email alerting them to what that danger is for life-threatening situations. We always encourage you, make sure that the student has their telephone number in their account so they can receive that text message and alert them to what's going on. They can actually add 2 additional telephone numbers to their account, so mom and dad can also be notified of that emergency, but it's very necessary to make sure that they have their telephone number in their student account. We also have emergency blue light phones. They're all around the campus. We have about 152 of them. That operation is open up the yellow box, press the red button, and go straight to our dispatch center. We can pinpoint that student's exact location and respond accordingly. One of our newest safety apps is our Rave Guardian app. You can download that Rave Guardian app. If I can get one of the orientation leaders just to put that information into the chat box. The Rave Guardian app has a great feature. One is our virtual safe walk, where you can actually pick somebody from your contact list on your cell phone to be your guardian, or you can select the University Police Department as your guardian, and we can actually monitor you walk from point A to point B to get to your destination safely. We will talk about a couple of policies. One is very important policy, our medical safety policy. So in the event that the student makes a unhelpful or unhealthy choice in regards to drugs and or alcohol, if that student contacts the University Police Department, and now it becomes a medical type situation, when we respond, we're responding as first responders. Meaning when we get there, we're not looking to write citations for like underage drinking, but we're there as a first responder to get that person the help that they need. So that's if they're calling on behalf of themselves or a friend. And so we will not cite or remain on scene if they assist with the information. We also have a tobacco ban on our entire campus. So we are campus tobacco-free campus. So that includes e-cigarettes, vaping, etc. Make sure that they adhere to that policy. We did do an educational rollout prior to COVID, but we will cite if there's repeat offenders in that type of situation. So make sure that the student is adhering to the no smoking policy. And lastly, we do have an open line of communications with our neighboring law enforcement, Milwaukee District 1, which is where the university is located. And we also expand to our campus extensions in Waukesha and West Bend. So everybody's kind of on the same page as we talk about safety and having your students be successful while they're here at UWM. So that's kind of it, an overview in a nutshell. I'm going to pass it back to Melissa, who can cover information regarding Norris Health Center. Thank you.
Officer Rafferty, there is a question in the chat for you. It says, what are the parameters of safety monitoring around campus? Are there any areas students should avoid for their own safety?
Great question. So yeah, let me address that real quick. So we actually have, again, being 24/7, we have our dispatch monitors the entire campus. About 85% of the campus is actually covered with milestone cameras. So we can see anything that's entering or exiting the university. All of our academic buildings also have milestone cameras in them. And when I tell people, when we talk about safety in general, I tell them, if you're not familiar with the Milwaukee area, to get familiar with the Milwaukee area, treat it like a vacation destination, find out where the great places to go, What are the excursions? I mean, we're in a great, safe location. UWM is actually one of the safest campuses in the UW system, and that's because of our location. But I tell people, wear your safety hat no matter where you're at. If you're in Milwaukee, safety hat. If you're in Hawaii, safety hat. Doesn't matter where you're at, always, and then take advantages of those resources that are available on campus, such as the boss escort, personal safety escort, making sure you download the Rave Guardian Act to utilize a virtual safe walk. All that kind of goes hand in hand when you talk about general safety for your student.
Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Hernandez again. So unfortunately, our presenter for Norris Health Center couldn't be here today, so I'm going to do my best to go over the slides. But I highly recommend you all to reach out to the Norris Health Center via their phone number on the screen, as well as their email address if you have any further questions. And also our three presenters can also answer any questions to the best of their abilities. But let's get started. All right, so you can see here we have a great chart of what our priorities here on campus are. So we talk about emergency, crisis management, sexual violence and safety, as Dean of Students in Title IX will mention later on in the presentation. We also talk about priorities are alcohol and other drugs, mental health and emotional well-being is a big one, as well as access to all of these healthy health resources that we have here on campus. I would really like to point out the mental health and emotional well-being, as that is one that generally affects college students a lot more than a lot parents might not know about. So I highly recommend speaking to your students about mental health and emotional well-being and checking in to make sure they're doing all right, especially since coming to college can be kind of a rough transition, especially for incoming students. So you can see here, we have a little overview of what our health services looks like here at UWM. So our main one is the Norris Health Center. It is located right by the K, which is our gym here on campus, also known as the Klotchke Center, and below or around, also around like a couple other buildings here at UWM. That is generally our central hub. That is where all students go to get either like a flu shot or just get if they're feeling sick, or if they need to pick up like a medicine that they don't want to go to another pharmacy for. Norris Center is kind of the overall general central hub for all health services here on campus. But Norris Health Center also has a university counseling services. So if a student needs to talk to a counselor or maybe needs to talk through some emotional stuff that they're going through, they can always contact the university counseling services and they can set up an appointment there to talk through their process there. And also the Norris Health Center does a lot of health promotion and wellness. So they talk a lot about how to stay healthy, tips to being healthy, and making sure that your students are being as healthy as they can here at UWM, especially because a lot of times the students is on their own for the first time and they might not know exactly what to do with this new thing of independence. So the Norris Health Center is a really great resources for that. So what does the Norris Health Center do? So as you can see here, the Norris Health Center, the main central hub, is a medical clinic, a laboratory, travel clinic. It has immunizations, also as a dispensary. So all of these general tests that you go to like your general doctor for, the Norris Health Center can provide that for your students. Once again, you don't need any insurance. So if your student doesn't have insurance, that's totally okay. There might be a small fee for some more elaborate tests, but overall, a lot of the services that the Norris Health Center provides is free. And if you need any of like the basic medical services, you can let your student know that they don't have to be afraid of paying for that because that is free at the Norris Health Center. A good thing about Norris Health Center is it has a dispensary. Once again, if your student has like an allergy medication or they have another medication that they need to pick up in like a fairly a lot basis, they can just send that immunization or that medicine to the Norris Health Center and they can pick it up there whenever they need it. Instead of going to like Walgreens or CVS, it's just more easy access if they're living on campus. In terms of university counseling service, they offer individual, couples, and group counseling, depending on which fits the student's situation better. They also do crisis services, psychiatry, Let's Talk, which is a really awesome service that they provide that just is they don't have to make I think they have to register or make an appointment. I'm not sure if one of my presenters want to drop that in the chat, but it's a great resource for them to just have a deep conversation and get out any feelings that they might be having or any stress that they'll be having at university. And they also do skill workshops, which is an awesome resource for your students to go through and learn more about university counseling services. In terms of health promotion and wellness, they have advocacy and survivor support services for all advocates and survivors. They also have wellness programs, bystander trainings, basics, and well-being resources and information. And two new awesome resources for students that the Norris Health Center has is You at UWM and Silver Cloud. These are really great websites and web services that have a lot of resources, a lot of articles that your student can read depending on the situation, and they might find more helpful tips on there. And you can also, for all of this information and more, you can always visit the Norris website, which is uwm.edu/Norris. And I'm sure the website will probably do a better job than of explaining it than I am. But yeah, they're a great resource. Highly recommend them. It's always great to have a medical hub on campus just in case of any emergency. In terms of COVID-19, we highly recommend the COVID-19 vaccine. It is currently available on campus and will be available on campus in the fall. In addition to the vaccine and just for safety and following the safety guidelines, if you are not vaccinated, we just highly recommend to maintain social distancing, wear a mask, and also wash your hands. Just following the normal COVID guidelines that we've had for the past year, I believe, maybe a little bit more. It's been a while. COVID-19 testing is available at the Norris Health Center for all students. And if you have symptoms, regardless if you're vaccinated or not, you should always call that number on the screen just to speak to health services staff and all that fun stuff. And then if you do come positive or any of the results are reported to state and local public health officials and all the campus staff who manages the notifications and all that. And if your student does have a positive COVID-19 test, they should always self-report to campus just to get all the procedures in place. But yeah, we highly recommend the COVID-19 vaccination, but it's not required. But if you do have the vaccination, you can, there's a link that you can input all the information, and then you'll be exempt from all of the biweekly testing that you have to do if you're on campus, or the weekly testing, depending on which one you are given. So yes, that is COVID-19. In terms of eligibility, confidentiality, and affordability, all students who are registered for classes and have paid their segregated fees are eligible for student health services. That's one of the ways that we can keep many of the health services free. So if your student is overall just a student at UWM and they pay their fees, they are eligible for all of the health services that are provided. In confidentiality, no information is released without the written consent of the student, except as mandated by law, just to make sure to keep everything confidential. And once again, for affordability, they do not bill insurances, and services are provided at no cost or very low cost. And if there are some fees, they're just paid directly to the health center. Usually all of them are free unless it's more of an advanced test, and it kind of just depends. And if your student is maybe having to do one of these tests, the Norris Health Center will definitely tell them and inform them about the costs. I'll let Title IX talk about this more in their later slides, but once again, like Abby mentioned, we do have programs that are required for incoming students that talk about alcohol and other drugs, as well as sexual assault prevention. And these are just a great way for students to learn more about these topics and to be well informed about making decisions in any of these scenarios if they do come in a situation, and they are prepared to deal with the situation and who to reach out if it does happen. They will all receive detailed instructions later on through the UWM email on how to access these programs, and you can always access more information on the Family Information website. All right, I'll pass it off to Kim. And I see also we have a question in the chat of, if my child's roommates test positive for COVID, do they stay in the same dorm or do they isolate either in another dorm or at home? That is a great question.
Yeah, so typically in the past year, the student who tested positive was moved to an isolation place on campus or had the option to go home if that was easier for them. But I know that there are sessions, and correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, with housing. And so that would actually be a really great question to ask them in that session. Melissa, there is a housing session, correct?
Yes, housing session is later on in the day. So I highly recommend going in there and they'll have more information regarding quarantine and all that procedures. I also see another question of, is physical therapy available to students if needed and not participating in sports? Great question.
And I do not know the answer to that, Luke. But I will direct message you, Luke, and get that for an email, and I will reply back to you.
All right, I'll hand it off to Kim.
Thanks so much, Melissa. That was a lot of information to cover and you did a great job. Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Anderson and I am the Title IX coordinator for UWM, which really just means that I oversee the university's internal response to sexual harassment and sexual violence concerns. That includes stalking, intimate partner violence, sexual assault, sexual exploitation. And so we serve all UWM campuses and we serve all students, including actually faculty and staff. Generally, Title IX is the law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex. And as it's applied, we look at sexual harassment and sexual violence as a barrier to education. And so we take these matters very seriously. We work really closely, as mentioned in the health, the Norris health training, as well as Abby mentioned, we engage in a lot of prevention efforts. That's our sort of first priority, right? If we can stop the conduct from occurring, then the rest is unnecessary. We have a number of programs on campus that focus on preventing sexual harassment and sexual violence. All new and incoming, including transfer students, complete an online sexual prevention training. That's the training that Abby mentioned, where if they don't complete it, they can have a hold on their account and won't be able to register for like the next semester of classes. Again, that's because it's just such an important training and we really want to make sure that all of our students have access to that information. Additionally, we provide information about sexual harassment and sexual violence prevention in orientation. So there's a couple different ways that it comes up throughout orientation. So we want to make sure they get it before they even come to campus and as soon as they're on campus. And we're just really making sure that they have that information. One of the programs I like to emphasize is our bystander intervention practices, which covers essentially how an individual can kind of help support others around them to help stop sexual violence and to do that safely. Again, it's something that they get introduction to when they come on campus, and we also have then more robust programming that they can opt into throughout the year. So I sort of encourage you to encourage your student to explore those options. So we, as I mentioned, emphasize prevention, but we also recognize that even with all of these efforts, the unfortunate reality is that students can still experience issues and concerns while on campus. So then we focus a great deal of energy on providing a caring and equitable response to incidents if they do occur. And so my office, the Title IX office, serves as the sort of central intake office for any kind of internal concerns around sexual harassment and sexual violence. I keep saying those internal concerns because our process is separate and unique and distinct from the criminal process. So a student who experiences a harm can elect to participate in our process or the criminal process or both processes. They really have a lot of options and they get to decide. It's really important to us to empower them to decide what process is best for them. And so our number one priority is really just to make sure that they know their rights, they have access to care and support, Some of those resources include the confidential advocate that was referenced in the Norris Health training. We have a confidential advocate on campus who serves our students and can kind of help them navigate any processes, and is also can accompany them to meetings and answer questions, et cetera. So that's a really great resource. And then of course, we also have the counseling services and Norris Health Services are confidential resources on campus. So as I mentioned, our number one priority is prevention, but then also to facilitate care. We will work with students to determine kind of what is the most appropriate response to any concern. And again, the real focus there is to empower them to decide what they want, what is best for them. And that may include an investigation, which could result in discipline, which again, Abby mentioned through the Dean of Students Office, could include something, the most severe sanction we could impose would be an expulsion or a suspension. But we also, again, empower students to decide if that's what they want, if they want to focus on supportive measures, are they interested in considering some sort of alternative resolution? It really is intended to be an informed conversation, and they don't have to make a decision immediately. They can take time to process and review and come back to us. And I always also emphasize we're never going to mandate or require someone to come in and talk with us. We're really just here to be helpful and to provide that care. And so with that, I think I will turn it back to Melissa.
Hello, I have my camera on. I didn't have it on because it was like prevents you from seeing the words, but now you can see me. Hello. But yeah, that was Healthy and Successful You. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat so our presenters can answer them. They're here for you, and they're here to answer any remaining questions or additional questions that you might have. But other than that, thank you for coming to Healthy and Successful You. The next session on our list is Academic Success at UWM. So if you're interested in that session as well, please attend that. It is at 10, so you have a little bit of break before it begins. But thank you all so much, and I hope you have the rest of a great rest of your Friday.
And we'll hang tight if there's any individual questions that you might have. Otherwise, again, if we don't know the answer, I am gathering email addresses and sending information to those folks. Please feel free to ask us any question that you might have.